This is the School Leadership Show, the only podcast dedicated to helping practicing and aspiring school leaders improve their craft. The School Leadership Show brings together thought leaders from inside and outside of education to deliver you the insights and tools you need to succeed in school leadership. And by the way, we're looking for sponsors for the show. If you or someone you know might be interested in reaching over 50,000 listeners, email me at mike@schoolleadershipshow.com. In this episode, Jen David Lang makes her 5th appearance on the show. She still holds the record by far. And there's a reason I keep talking to Jen, because I always learn so much. Jen produces The Main Idea, a monthly summary of a current education book. Jen has over 30,000 subscribers and has an incredible perspective on all things education. In this episode, we talk about David Allen's updated edition of his classic, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. We get into Allen's organizational system to help people with too much to do and too little time. I'm a huge fan of David Allen's work, and I loved this conversation with Jen. She has a great perspective on his updated version of the book, and we get into productivity not only from the work perspective, but also how it impacts things at home. I hope you enjoy this interview with Jen David Lang. So I have Jen David Lang here with me, the author of The Main Idea. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how are you doing?
Fabulous. And so, Jen, you and I talked, maybe like a week ago or so, and we decided we wanted to do something a little bit more regular around the books that you've been summarizing.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, and you know that productivity is close to my heart, and one of your recent books was David Allen's 2.0 version, I guess you'd call it, of Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And so why did you pick that book?
So this book is a New York Times bestseller, and it's really aimed at helping everyone get more organized, but it seemed particularly relevant for school leaders who have to juggle so many tasks that are constantly flying at them. So it seemed very relevant for school leaders.
So one of the things he gets into, and there's so much in the book, there's no way we can get through absolutely everything in 30 minutes. But one of the things that he's big on is having this idea of our brains being designed to generate ideas, not to store them. I think I got that from him. And he talks about this idea of having a trusted system to capture everything. Or maybe it makes sense to go through sort of the 5 steps he talks about with staying on top of your work, because capture is the first one. I want to get into that. But he had capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. Were those the 5?
Those were the 5, but I think you're right to step back for a moment and sort of think of the larger picture of his philosophy, and many organizational gurus share this, which is that it's hard for the brain to be creative and it's hard for the brain to be focused on your task at hand if you're constantly thinking about all of your to-do lists and all the items you have to do. So if your listeners take a moment right now and think about something that you have to do that's been on your mind. I don't know, Mike, have you had anything over the Thanksgiving weekend, a work task that you've had to complete, but you find yourself thinking about it when you're driving to your Thanksgiving dinner when you can do absolutely nothing about it?
Absolutely. I was running errands yesterday and thinking about this interview.
Yep. Oh, great. I'm a to-do item now. Exactly. So you're grocery shopping, and not only can you not, let's say you have concrete tasks to do to prepare for this interview, you can't do any of it while you're pushing a shopping cart, but then you also can't free up your mind to think of higher order things that you need to do and that you want to do. So his idea is that we need a system to organize all of the tasks and items we need to do so that our brain can be rest assured that we will get to those items. And now we're freed up to be with our children while we're shopping, be present with the teacher while we're debriefing a lesson, and also think, hey, here are some larger creative ideas to improve my school, my district, my life.
So you had mentioned in the summary that you had read this book a while ago and then decided to do the summary of the newer version, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's so new. It's more, I had read the book years ago and I was kind of putting it into place in a partial way. And then I reread it and decided to put it in place in a more complete way. One of David Allen has been a consultant and an organizational guru for decades. And one of his clients said, when I habitually applied the tenets of this program, it saved my life. When I faithfully applied them, it changed my life. So I wanted to go for more faithful application and change my life. But
what is your trusted system? How are you capturing those things?
So as you say, he has these 5 steps. I think it's more 4 steps, and I sort of created an acronym myself because I like short and I like to be able to remember things. So I thought of the acronym CORE, CORE, that you want to capture everything you want to do. C, O, you want to organize it. R, you want to review it. And then E, you actually execute what it is you have to do.
Ooh, I like that.
Capture, organize, review, and execute. And those are really taking his 5 steps. So the first part is the capture. So as school leaders, we get tasks all the time, right? Whether you're walking down the hallway and someone says, hey, remember to send me that agenda, or you get an email where someone is asking you to give them feedback on a lesson, or you constantly are getting items to do. So what do we do with all of these tasks? And David Allen says we have to have a place to capture them. And it can be a physical inbox. So you write all the things you have to do on little sticky notes and throw them into a physical inbox. It can be something digital, a program, or some kind of list online or on your phone. But you have to have some place for everything to go. And it has to end up in one place. Otherwise, we have these sticky notes all over the place. So that's kind of the first step.
And that's something I feel like I continue to struggle with. I know if I'm out walking around, I guess, in a building and somebody says, hey, Mike, can you, they ask me a question or ask me to do something, I find myself saying, hey, shoot me an email so that I don't forget it, because I'm usually not walking around with a pad and paper. So I can't, and I feel weird taking out my phone and putting it into something, and I haven't found that perfect electronic something yet. Mm-hmm. So I feel like my email inbox and my calendar end up being my default systems, which I don't know. I guess what I tell people is it doesn't matter what it is as long as it works for you. But if it's confession time, I'm not sure mine's working the way I want it to.
Well, it sounds like you're not committing. You have to commit to something. So whether it is walking around with a clipboard, if you're a pen and paper person, or if it can all go into your inbox, but then you do walk around with your phone. And when someone says, hey, Mike, can you do this? You can say, I've got my middle-aged brain. Sorry, I need to write a note to myself, and just stop and write that note, whether it's sending it to your email inbox or if it's a running list of to-dos to add to your list. You need to stop and capture it. And, I don't think it's something to be ashamed about. I used to feel like, I need all this organizational system because I can't remember it all. And I think what David Allen has shown us is that it's not that you're lesser or you can't remember it. It's that you want to free up your brain to be present.
Well, and I think that is something that over the last couple of years I've found really makes a difference. Like, I think about if I have a presentation that I have to work on, instead of just having it sort of bumping around in my brain, I'll look at the calendar and say, okay, the presentation is next month. So I'll put like 2 weeks before the presentation, I'll block off time on my calendar to work on that presentation. So then I don't have to think about it because I know there's time built in at some point to actually work on that thing that needs to be done. Then it's out of my RAM and it's somewhere else.
Yeah, that's sort of getting to the next step of the organize. But yeah, we'll get to the organize in 2 seconds. But I definitely think you need a place to capture everything. I sort of send everything to my email inbox. And does it jam it up? It does. But then I sit down and I take all those things out and I organize them.
Do you use what email program do you use?
I just use Gmail.
Gmail, and
Yeah.
any plugins or anything? I'm getting kind of nerdy here, but anything. You're just straight up Gmail.
Just straight up. If somebody tells me, if I bump into you in the grocery store, like we don't live near each other, but, or, if you say, hey, Jen, what do you think about having a podcast about getting things done? I'll shoot myself an email, contact Mike about getting things done. And then I wait later for figuring out where that goes. That's the next step, the organize. So the organize part, I really like how he sets up this second step, which is that he basically says everything is eventually going to go from that proverbial inbox into one of 8 categories of ways to remember them. So it's a little bit complex. He has a workflow diagram, which I sort of wrote up and put into a nice little table. I'm happy to share with your listeners if they want to see this workflow diagram. But it helps to see these 8 categories. And basically, he divides them into, are the items I have to do actionable or not? So
it's really like a dichotomous key, right? So you're going like a flow chart where if it's a yes, you go this way. If it's a no, you go that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's think about some examples, right? So, someone sends me an email that I need to vote in some election where I don't even live, right? So that's very clear. That's trash. It's trash. There's no action for that. Let's say you send me an article about English language learners, and I don't have any English language learners in my school right now, but the population is increasing. So I just want to keep it on file because I trust that Mike sends me good articles, but I don't want to read it right now. I just want to file it. So the second category is reference, things you want to refer to and maybe come back to later. This is a really big one, and you can't start this in the middle. You have to set up a really good reference system before you go through the core process.
So what are you doing? I'm going to keep interrupting you. So what are you doing for a reference system?
So most school leaders need both an electronic and a physical one. And David Allen is a big proponent of just an A to Z filing system. He does not think it should be complex, divided into subcategories, because then you spend too much time thinking about it. He thinks any paper that comes across your desk or any electronic article or reference piece should be able to be filed away in 60 seconds. If you can't do it in 60 seconds, he says, then your reference system isn't good enough.
Well, and I think some folks would argue, and I talked with the folks from the Breakthrough Coach on a previous podcast, but if there's, for school leaders who work with really good administrative assistants, they've already got this down, and they've trained you as the administrator in how to handle the paper, which is basically give it to them and they take care of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that might be just having some sticky notes where you pass it along to someone, or they know the system well enough that they can refer. But even if your administrative assistant files it, you still need to know where to go to get that article about L's when you need it 6 months, 1 year, 10 years down the line. So setting up that system, that takes time.
So we've got trash, we've got reference.
Yes, but it is no small thing to put together to spend time putting the reference system together. And he doesn't advocate. He says there's 2 camps. There's some people who believe when in doubt, throw it out. And then he believes there are other people who think when in doubt, keep it. And he doesn't say one philosophy is correct or incorrect. He says just make sure that it's simple enough that you can follow through on either one. And don't save so much that you can't use the reference system.
And my rule of thumb for that has always, and I'm definitely a when in doubt, throw it out kind of guy. And my rule of thumb has always been, if it exists electronically or someone else has it, I don't need it on paper. Are you a when in doubt, keep it? Or are you a throw it out?
I think I fall in between. I mean, I try to get rid of as much as possible, but I also want things organized in my system. So just because I know that Mike has this article, I need to have it myself. Not in paper, electronically, yes, whenever possible electronically, but I need it organized.
Makes sense.
And David Allen says that's what often really gums us up, that we keep reference items in our email inboxes, in our physical inboxes, and it's because we don't have a good reference system. This is a great resource, but I don't know where to put it. I'll just leave it here in my inbox.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. So spend some time, take a weekend, get file folders, look and the computer, really set up the computer so you can have a very clear A to Z filing system. Whether it's F, you put articles about formative assessment, and M, mindfulness programs for schools, or whatever it is, however you're going to organize it, but really set up those computer file systems. It will be a lifesaver in the future in getting you organized. So on that no side, so you're right, we have trash, we have reference, and then this.
Oh.
I am shower.
Wait, hold on.
Hold
on, Jen. I lost you there for a second.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go back to on the no side we have, and then switch over to yes.
Oh, I have one more on the no side.
Okay, go ahead.
So on the no side, meaning the items that are not actionable, you're right. We have trash and we have reference. And the third category that requires no action now is called a someday maybe list. And these are the things that you want to do someday maybe, but you're not doing them right now. So you're in the shower and you think, wow, it would be great to have a principal's book club where I read, novels with 8th graders, but I just have too much on my plate right now. So you don't want to lose that idea, but you don't want to do anything about it. So that goes on a someday maybe list. And again, this can be a paper pen list or physical file called someday maybe, or it can be electronic list on your computer. But the idea is you want to put it somewhere. You don't want to keep thinking about that book club when you're not going to do anything about it for 6 months, a year, or further down the line.
Well, and it's taking up bandwidth that you should be using to work on the stuff that you're supposed to be working on.
Yes. And you don't want to forget about it because it's a cool idea.
Right.
So that's the no side. So all of the items in your inbox that go on the no side end up in trash, someday maybe, or reference. Then there are all the items, the vast majority, that do require some kind of action. And he divides those into items that are just a one-step or multi-step. So let's start with the multi-step. He calls anything that takes more than one step a project. So let's say you have to plan professional development for your Monday staff meeting. He would call that a multi-step project. And he also says we don't do projects. And part of the problem is that many of the items on our to-do lists, we think they're items to do, but they're really projects. So it's your mother's birthday and you need to buy a gift and you write, mother's birthday on your list. Or you write PD for Monday. But many of these items require a few steps, right? You want to buy a present for your mom. Well, first you need to ask her what she wants, or you need to brainstorm, or you need to search online and find the best price for that new iPhone cover. There's a few steps to it, so you really have to think about what's the next step before you can do anything about it. But what he says is that you should have a project list. This is a list of all the titles of your project. So it would say mom's birthday gift, or it would say plan PD for Monday's meeting, or set up a system to track and follow up on my observations of teachers. So this is just the names of all of your projects. And then later on, you can turn those into, well, what's the next step that goes on my to-do list, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, do you keep that project list? Do you have one going?
I do. I call it something different. And actually, there's another person who writes about organizations specifically for teachers and leaders. Um, Maya Hake Merlin. I don't know if you've heard of her. She wrote The Together Teacher and The Together Leader, and she calls these thought catchers. So if you have something that you need to put thought into, like planning PD for Monday, you would have a thought catcher that says Monday's PD, and then every time you're in the shower or driving to work or talking with someone and you get more ideas, those would go onto the thought catcher. But yeah, so you need to have a list of your projects, otherwise you forget what you're doing. But then in addition to the actual list, the other category of non-actionable items are the project materials, right? So your administrative assistant makes copies of the agenda for Monday's PD. Where do you put them if it's 4 days in advance? You put those in a physical file called Monday's PD session. You know, what happens when, you come up with a great graphic organizer to use for that, and that has to be part of this project, you put that in that physical file. So you have a projects list with all the titles of the projects, and then you have project materials, which is one physical or electronic file folder for each of your projects.
Makes sense.
So in the yes category of yes, I have to do something, those are the multi-step projects. That's what those would look like in your inbox. So as people are sending you things, they go into either the projects list or project materials. Then the other category, and this is a big one, is the one-step actions, the things that only take one step. So what he says, and a lot of organizational experts say this, if it takes less than 2 minutes, do it right now. So if you're walking through the bedroom and there's a sock on the floor, you're not going to add that to your to-do list. You're going to pick up the sock and put it in the hamper.
See, this is the one which I wish I could get my teenager to embrace.
I think we could do a whole other podcast on how to get teenagers to put away their socks. I know that firsthand. But yeah, the quick items. So you send me an email that says, Jen, what time are we going to be doing this podcast? And that's a quick answer. Oh, this time on this day. So those are the quick items. And he says, just do them if they're under 2 minutes. If it takes more than 2 minutes, this is where we get into these other categories. So the calendar example that you gave, so one place you put them is on the calendar. So I'm not going to do this now, but I'm going to do this on, January 25th.
Right.
Or the month of January. You put it in the future. And there's several ways to do it. He believes that the calendar should be sacred for what has to be done on a certain day. So if you start putting, tomorrow I'd like to read these 3 articles, but you don't really have to, then you're going to stop trusting your calendar because it's suggesting what you should do, not what you absolutely have to do. If you told a parent that you would call her on Tuesday because of the serious discipline issue, then that goes on the calendar for Tuesday. That has to happen, or you've broken your word to the parent. Absolutely. Or if you have a meeting at 2 p.m. on Tuesday with the superintendent, you'd better go to that meeting. So he really believes the calendar should be sacred for what we have to do. But he has this tickler system, which is very interesting. And I do an electronic version. He does a paper version. He says get 12 file folders that have all the months of the year, January, February, March, April. Then he says, get 31 more folders that have the numbers 1 to 31 for the days of the month. And let's say someone says to you, hey, Mike, in February, I think we should review this new project-based learning approach that we've implemented in our school. So it's November. You don't want to think about this. So in the February file, you put a note to yourself, review the project-based learning program. And you don't have to think about it until February. Then when February comes, this file folder is filled with things you want to do in February. And then you have the numbers folders 1 to 31, and you can put items in each of those days. Oh, well, we have to review this project-based learning program by the 10th because that's when the renewal for the contract comes up. So let's put it in the file folder number 2 or 3.
Yeah, that tickler file is magical. My secretary and I use one at school, and then I have a separate one that I keep at home for our home stuff, and it's amazing. And there's actually Merlin Mann, the father of the Inbox Zero idea for email, has a whole website called 43 Folders, which is all about that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a tried and true strategy for people.
Absolutely. I do it electronically. My January 1, February 1 all has stuff to do in January, stuff to do in February, and I constantly put things there.
Do you keep that? You keep that in Google, or you keep it on your computer? Like, where is that?
Yeah, it's just in my Google Calendar on the first of every month. So I can easily put items into those months.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that really is helpful. And then on a personal note, my husband and I have started the weekend list every Friday. So when there are chores or things that we have to do over the weekend, either of us can put them in the weekend list on Friday, and then we print it out and we have that around for the weekend. And on the one hand, you think, who wants a to-do list for your weekend? On the other hand, the weekend is a time when we do try to catch up, and if it comes to Sunday night and you don't do those things, your week is a lot more rocky. So rather than it be sort of a nagging thing where one of us is telling the other one, remember, we have to do this or that, we just put it into the weekend list, print it out, and then over the weekend, we try to get to the tasks we can get to.
Oh, I love it. That's a great one. And that's you guys use a shared document for that?
Yeah, it's a shared document that we do. And we put fun things in there too. It's not all dreary shopping lists, but it's also some fun things. Hey, this weekend this is going on or that's going on. And it helps with managing kids stuff too. You know, we have to sign this permission slip and give it back to the kids by Monday. So whatever we have to do, as that's popping up during the week, instead of worrying about all these things that need to be done for Monday that are both personal and professional, we throw them in the weekend list. So that's part of this calendar copy. So I'm glad that you and your secretary use the 43 files, because it's very useful for items that you have to do but not now. So going into these 8 buckets, when items are not actionable, they're either trash, reference someday maybe. When they are actionable, they're going on a project's list, part of project material. You're doing it because it's fewer than 2 minutes. You are putting it on a calendar, or sometimes you want to give the item and delegate it, because I know Breakthrough is very into delegating. You want to delegate your items, but you also want to keep on top of them. That's the problem a lot of people have. You delegate something and then you assume it's off your plate, but you're still responsible for the bottom line.
Absolutely.
So he suggests a waiting for list. So I emailed Mike to ask about this podcast. Now I have to wait for him to tell me which day or if he likes the idea. So that would go on a waiting for list. I'm waiting for Mike Doughty. And you really do want to keep tabs on that. And then the final item, this is the classic, he calls it the next actions list, but it's really the bulk of your to-do list. What are all those items I have to do? And he suggests organizing that by context, so where you are. So computer items, out and about, out in town items, phone calls, emails, those kinds of things. So that when you're out, instead of going to pick up your dry cleaners and then coming home and realize you also need the dog food, you have your entire out and about list. So you get all those things done at one time. Or you have articles you want to read, and you have that list in one place. So when the meeting that's supposed to start at 2 p.m. is delayed until 2:30, you have your list and your pile of reading, so you can pull out one of those articles and read it. Or you're stuck in the airport and all you have is your phone, the cell service is down, so you have your list of phone calls to make, then you can just knock off 3, 4, 5 phone calls. So he suggests organizing the next actions list by context.
And that makes sense. I mean, I think you think about batching, so doing like activities together. So instead of making one salad for just tomorrow's lunch, make 3 of them at the same time, so you only get the stuff out once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know if you organize your to-do lists by context.
I think it starts to happen naturally as I'm,
Mhm.
and it's funny because as we've been sitting here, I've been taking notes on things that I need to tune up in my own organizational work, and I have been carrying around. I have this like little steno notebook where it's basically my project list. I just haven't been calling it that, and things kind of go in there, and I end up rewriting it every couple days as things come off it and things go on it, and that it's interesting. I guess I haven't been able to commit to an electronic version of it yet, and I don't know. I haven't found the right thing yet.
Well, this is where I do go back to paper and pen because I find the screen on a phone to be too small. I do print out my next actions list and I have it cover sort of 2 days, and I do have these different categories, but I like to look at the whole page and see where are my priorities. I mean, that gets into the review part, but I really like to see them all on an 8.5 by 11 paper. So that system works for me more than on a small screen. And I don't walk around, opening up my laptop or desktop. So I do keep it on a piece of paper, but I try to keep just those items for the next couple of days so that I hate rewriting to do items. I find that to be a waste. But yes, I do organize, and you do have it make sense for you. So for example, one of the things on my next actions list, if I have to talk to people about certain things, if you have to talk to your administrative assistant, Bob, you might have Bob on your next actions list, and then you can start gathering all of the things you need to talk to Bob about.
Right.
And that helps to have that all in one place so that you're not constantly finding Bob. So those are his 8 categories. So it takes time. It takes time to go through all of your items to do and put them into these final buckets. And one thing, he really is very particular about how to do this, and he's absolutely right. He says the way to do this is one item at a time. So if you have a physical inbox with lots of things to do, don't dump them out on your desk. Start from the top and do them one at a time, because otherwise you get tempted to do what you want to do and not go through all of them. And this is a shortcoming of mine. He says the same thing with your emails. Start with your most recent email, not your oldest one, because you don't want to lose the train. And even if that second email in your inbox is a congratulatory email from the superintendent about how well your school did on the state math test scores, don't open that congratulatory email until you read the first one. And I know I am a victim of that. I would prefer to read certain emails over others or do certain tasks over others. But he said once you fall prey to that, then you start leaving items unprocessed.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's basic human nature. We all would prefer to do what we would prefer to do.
It's kind of obvious, and that's definitely where I get stuck. Or I don't know where to file something, so I skip it over because the next email is just asking me about a time of a meeting, and I know I can answer that quickly. So he really suggests for this organizational step that you do it very methodically, one at a time.
So I can't even believe this. We're bumping up against our time already.
Oh, okay.
And we have barely scratched the surface, which I think really shows you how complex his system is in getting things done. But I think it's complex, but it's also simple at the same time if you actually follow it. and I think that's one of the things that people get jammed up with is that if it's like diets, right? The perfect diet that you don't follow doesn't help you, but the system that you are able to follow, to the extent you make it your own, is going to help you.
Yes.
So let's
we just finish up the other two really quickly?
Yeah, let's finish up the other two, and then absolutely go ahead.
I think these first two are the biggest ones that the biggest hurdles people need to get through. Reviewing just means setting time aside to review all of this. Going through your next actions list, crossing off what you've completed. First of all, it's good to try to calendar Friday at the end of the day, Saturday morning, 8 a.m., whatever time works for you, once a week to review all these items. So this is when you would cross off your next actions list. You would review the calendar from last week to see if there are any action items that you need for next week. Review your waiting for list to see if anyone is supposed to have done something and they haven't. Review your projects list. And that's when you go through and say, for this next project, what's my one next step that I need to add to my next actions list?
Now, do you do a review at home? We do one. We try to do one like Sunday afternoon with Teresa and I do to get ready for the week.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds a little bit like what Maya Hake Merlin recommends. I try to do it Friday. It's usually more work oriented than home for me. And if I'm too tired, then I'll do it first thing Monday morning, if I can. But it's very important. Otherwise, you have your tasks rule you rather than you rule your tasks.
Exactly.
So you do want to try to manage that. So it's really reviewing and prioritizing. And this is also a nice time for that creativity to come in, where you could look at your someday maybe list, right, to see if there's any other new projects you want to start. Or you could some people have these larger checklists, sort of like in your personal life. You might have categories like career, family, health, finances, spiritual life, where you actually go through them and say, hey, how am I doing with my career goals? What are some things I want to start to implement? How's everything going with my family? Do I want to implement some new family traditions or have more quality time? So you can use this review time to look at larger checklists as well. For work, there might be certain goals that you've had professionally. How am I doing with my staff morale? It was very low at the beginning of the year, and this has been a year-long goal for me. So what am I doing for these larger issues? That's a good time to do that. Not every week. You're not going to visit these large topics every week, but maybe once a month or whatever, with whatever frequency you feel is necessary. And then, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the last one is execute, right?
Yeah, so execute, that's just deciding what to do when. And that's a huge topic. He doesn't go into as much detail, but he basically says think about 4 categories. Context, right, where you are, you're stuck in the airport with your phone, do your phone tasks. Context is one way to decide what to do. Time available. Do you have 10 minutes before your next meeting, or do you have a block of 2 hours? If it's the 2 hours, then maybe you want to do that grant. If it's 10 minutes, then answer a few emails. Energy available, that's a third category. If it's the end of the day, you have different energy than the beginning of the day. And then finally, obviously, priority. And this is where the weekly review can help you decide what are those priorities areas. If you had set the priority areas during your weekly review, then you know where you should be spending that 2-hour block of time in the morning. So those are sort of his 4.
Yeah, and I think I like how I like the acronym, the CORE: capture, organize, review, and execute. The Jen David Lang spin on David Allen's classic "Getting Things Done." But it's interesting because as we were talking through this, there are so many rabbit holes you could go down. I mean, just one of those last things you mentioned, the idea of your energy level at any particular time. That could be a whole podcast in and of itself, because everybody has a different sort of biological prime time where they do their best thinking work, and it might be different for you than it is for me. I've done entire shows on just email. I mean, so there's tons of places to go on this, but I'm glad we talked about it. You've reinvigorated me to dive back into this book and put more of these things into place on a regular basis, not only at work, but in the Dowdy house too.
Yes. Yes. No, it's re-inspired me too. It's always something to work on. It is a project in process. I don't know that anyone's fully mastered it.
So this is kind of our we've talked about other books that you've summarized before, but this is the beginning of, and I'm going to put it right out there. This is the beginning of our commitment we're having a little commitment ceremony here right now. This is the beginning of our commitment to do this on a regular basis. So short podcasts where we talk about one of the books that you've summarized recently, or in the past. We have some ideas on where to go next, and then that way, hopefully, we get more people into the main idea. How about a shameless plug for the main idea right now?
Well, the main idea, it's a service I provide for school leaders where I summarize one current education or leadership book a month, and I have about 100 of them already on my website. So if you want to learn about the main idea, become a subscriber, you can go to themainidea.net. And if you would like this particular book summary from Getting Things Done, if you've listened to this podcast, you can send me an email and mention this podcast and this book title, and I'd be happy to send you a complimentary copy.
Fantastic. And I'll put your email in the show notes. Will that work?
Sure.
So people can get to it. And that'll be great. And then we'll look for, we haven't decided on our next book yet. So, stay tuned. And
we'll put it on the to-do list to decide that.
There it is. And it will be actionable.
It will be, hopefully.
All right. Jen, thank you so much for taking time to talk about getting things done and to kick me in the butt a little bit to get me moving.
Anytime. Okay, Mike, take care.
Take care. This episode of the School Leadership Show has been brought to you by, nobody. So if you know someone who would like to sponsor the show and reach over 50,000 school leaders, you need to email me at mike@schoolleadershipshow.com. In any case, thanks for listening to this episode of the School Leadership Show, a podcast for aspiring and practicing school leaders. Send your comments, questions, and show ideas to me, mike@schoolleadershipshow.com. And please consider rating the podcast in iTunes and leaving a comment. And definitely pass the show along to your colleagues.